Hi, this is Dave from Steel City Jones Flight Academy. Today, we are super excited to bring you our Matrice 300 product review video. We've had this aircraft now for a few weeks, and as you can see by the looks of it, it is quite the departure from the Matrice 200-210. And the burning question everybody has is, what are the differences between the 200 and 210 with the new 300? Should I upgrade? Should I consider just getting the older aircraft? What are the pluses and minuses? What are the different advantages of each? So we spent a lot of time really comparing this to the 200 and 210 to give you all the feedback we can possibly give you. And like always, we wanted to be as comprehensive about it as possible, and we're going to be as honest and real about it as possible. There are a lot of really great things about this new aircraft that we absolutely love, and there's certain things about it that we really don't like. So we're going to give you what I feel to be a very honest review. So with that said, since this is a longer video, what we did was, after this intro, you're going to see coming up on your screen a chapter with an index of time where you can find different things that we're going to talk about. That way, if you want to look at one or two different things very specifically, you can jump right to them. Or if you hopefully you have enough time, you can watch the entire video, or you can come back and watch certain parts of it when you have more time. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start off with the size of the aircraft. As you can see, it's much larger than the traditional aircraft that you're used to seeing, and almost as big as the largest aircraft DJI makes. The new aircraft is definitely larger than the M200, which makes some challenges for transportation cases, which we'll get into in a little bit. You're going to have better line of sight at further distances. Many people don't take that into consideration when they're trying to choose an aircraft. So to demonstrate how this works, what we did was we did a side-by-side comparison with both aircraft at different distances away. Now what we did is we set up the aircraft and we set up our camera to actually mimic exactly what our eyesight would be, so that we weren't, because when you do them with different wide angle lenses, it can look completely skewed. So we wanted to give you as realistic of a impression of how you would realistically see it when you're just looking at it in the sky. So right now you'll see both aircraft at 500 feet. Now you'll see the aircraft at 750 feet away. This is what it looks like with the aircraft 1,000 feet away. This is the aircraft at 1,500 feet away. From our perspective and our opinions, we think that this aircraft is almost double the size from distances 1,000 feet away. And that is a really, really good safety feature to have as a visual aid for a pilot. The larger the aircraft looks to you, the better you can remain and tell what the orientation of the aircraft is, and that you don't lose the orientation of the aircraft, which is huge for flying. So we really like that with the larger airframe. So as you can see, there's a lot of changes to the airframe. Let's go ahead and examine each of these one step at a time. We'll start on the outside and work our way in. As you can see from the motors and the props, they are much larger than the 200 and 210. The motors are much more water resistive. That helps to give that IP45 rating, which we'll talk a little more about down the line. But these are a lower kV motor. I don't know the exact specs on there. I did not see them on the DJI site, but that allows it with larger props that it's going to be able to get a lot more lift and more payload capability, which I can see more like down the road for LiDAR applications, because LiDAR is a heavier payload. And as you can also see, the changes also include the folding props as well. And you can also notice that the props are on the bottom. That, in my opinion, is where a lot of things I don't like about this aircraft. First off, these are not quick release props. So we cannot put them on like we normally would. These are really fixed on here. There's two screws that go in there, and they're not easy to be able to change these props out. We do like the bigger motors. It's not a bad idea to have a bigger prop. we wish they were just, instead of a foldable prop like this, that we wish they were just a fixed size prop, larger prop with quick release. That would be, to my opinion, the best of both worlds. One more important note about the props is because they are mounted on the bottom and because of the size of the props, that makes it impossible to be able to do a hand launch or a hand catch and recovery. You just can't do it, it's too dangerous. So that can be an issue for some people that are in more isolated areas that really need that capability to be able to do that from with your hands, that if you can't do it more from traditional methods. You know, a lot of areas might be, and you're talking about really soft, muddy areas and where you just don't have anything solid to be able to take off from. That can be a problem. And you can't, definitely not going to be able to take off or land from a boat, a smaller boat at least. You're just not going to be able to use your hands for launch or recovery. Next, let's talk about the landing gear. What we have here is, on the very end, is a little recessed in triangle that's going to pair in and match into the inner part of the case so that when this goes in, it's nice and snug. And now we have this locking knob here to make sure that this is locked in. Same way on this other side. Now we have to go ahead and just lock this in. It's not the easiest thing to do, is to lock these in. We see that as a problem where we can see them not getting tight. And we actually had a problem with ours in the middle of the flight where we actually thought we locked these in pretty tight and then went out and flew for a full day of flying during testing. The problem at hand was we didn't check them in between flights. Now that's something that's going to have to be done on a checklist for sure. You can't hand catch it. Luckily enough, at the location we had really high grass brush kind of material to put this down gently and really minimize damage. And the only damage that we had were two props on the end, the tips got knocked off. Other than that, we came out unscathed. But as you can imagine, if you're out in an industrial area where you may have all concrete asphalt, you may not have any grass or type of thing that you can put this safely down, it's going to be a big problem. So what we're going to recommend that you do is to thoroughly make sure when you have these in here that you lock them in really good and tight and double check them in between every flight. So you'll notice that there's not 4 antennas that are the same. There are 2 in the front that are more standardized like we're used to, and then on the back side are the RTK pucks. Now on the Matrice 200 and 210, we had them more in line with the center of the aircraft, and on the V1s we would have to extend and bring them up and then have a set screw with them there and lock them in place. They improved the design on the V2s a bit, but now these are fixed. We don't have to do anything with them, and they're on the backside booms. Like the 200 and 210, we have foldable booms. And the reason why we have foldable booms is just to be able to go ahead and break this aircraft down to a smaller footprint for the travel case. And we're going to get into a lot more about that actually in the case section. So we're going to talk about a lot of the things that we don't like about that. Elsewise, let's now go ahead and work our way in to the main part of the aircraft. As you can see, we have a really tall center section with a lot of different things on it. So let's start with the vision system. Now, the vision system, as you'll see, we have cameras on the back for rearward obstacle avoidance, and we have cameras on the sides now for side obstacle avoidance. And also, we have more cameras on the front and the top and the bottom. So it's definitely improving. But I still want to caution you with a few different things. There's a lot of confusion in regards to what this vision system can do. Let's talk about what it can't do. A lot of people are confused when they see the DJI promo video with the Matrice 300 flying down below the bridge deck in between the pillars. They think that the obstacle avoidance will then it will sense it and then it'll just have the aircraft fly around it like APAS for them, like the Mavics do. That's not what this aircraft does. This aircraft will not fly around once it senses an obstacle. It will just stop. That's really important. Now, what's great about this is for the first time, we can dictate certain parameters for the vision system for the obstacle avoidance. We can set when we want it to brake, how close to the obstacle. So normally before, it would not brake until about 4 to 5 feet away from the obstacle. We can now change that to anything that we want. And also the warning system. We can now tailor make that warning system as close as we want or as far away as we want. And that's a huge improvement over that. Now, I want to caution you again that this is not an obstacle avoidance that's perfect. It cannot detect thin cables, utility lines, etc., power lines. So don't get the false impression that this will go ahead and be able to avoid any type of obstacle that you could potentially hit. It does still have limitations, but it is greatly improved over the 200 and 210. Next, let's talk about batteries. As you can see, these new batteries are huge. They're like bricks, and they require 2 of them. So these are 3 pounds a piece. So just the 2 batteries on here is adding 6 pounds to the aircraft's weight, which is significant. Now the TB55s were 2 pounds, just a hair under 2 pounds. So now we are adding that much more weight to this new aircraft. These are on a 12S system to accommodate these larger motors. So 12S system means more battery voltage. So think of it as like a 48 volt battery system. Now, obviously, it goes a little higher when it's fully charged, and it's a little lower when it goes down. But on average, you can count it as a 48 volt system. So it's more current, more voltage, more power, overall higher payload capacity. And that's what makes all these things on here. Now, what we really do like about the new batteries, where we can easily just take one off at a time, and that allows us to be able to not have to power the aircraft down to be able to get back up in the air much quicker in between battery changes. And also what we like about this safety feature on the back here is for this to be able to be fully secure, we have to turn this knob to where it's sideways. And if it's completely vertical, it's in the hot swap position. The aircraft knows that, and it's spring loaded. So if it's not in the horizontal position, it's not going to let you take off. It's going to give you a battery error, battery installation error. We really love that because we can see some people when they're in a hurry forgetting to go ahead and pull this knob, this locking knob down in the closed locked position. So we really like that. That's a great feature to have, and it's a great ability to be able to have the hot swapping feature to it. Next, let's talk about the upgraded FPV camera. As you'll see here on the front, it has a much bigger, larger FPV camera. It is a wider angle camera. It's going to give us a much wider angle of view than we currently had with the 200 and 210. But one of the changes that's also different about it is it's flush mounted inside. It's not mounted on the outside like the 200s and 210s, and there's no ability to be able to angle it down at a 45 like you could with the older cameras. But now that it has a larger wide angle of view, we don't see that as a problem, and as you'll see on your screen, what we have right here flying this around, we really didn't have any problems being able to see. And it definitely is an increase of resolution and video quality compared to the older counterparts. This is 960 lines of resolution, and hopefully on the next version that's going to come out, it will have a 4K FPV camera. And the reason why we mention that is because there is a lot of added functionality in the Pilot app for a lot of new features on there. We'll go into that when we get to that section, but we really wish the camera was like a 4K camera. So far, we've been in Florida testing for a week, we've been in Pittsburgh testing for a week, and then also now we're in Joplin, Missouri, training public safety at their firing range, and we have a lot of data on here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this up in the air, we're gonna let you hear it, we're gonna let you see how it works, how it flies, and give you a lot of different comments and feedback while we're in the air. We have this mic'd up, so I hope that you can pick up the differences in the sound of how everything sounds. Take off. So the first thing that I see here is the aircraft is definitely at a lower pitch with those bigger props and bigger motors. This reminds me a lot of the M600 and how the M600 flies. It's very smooth, very docile. We've done extensive testing on M200 and M600, and this definitely really reminds us of the M600 and how it flies. But it really does a nice job, and we feel it's much more smooth overall compared to the M200 and more in line with the M600. It flies absolutely straight. The yaw authority is absolutely smooth, silky smooth. So as like I said, I'm very impressed. I've flown just about every type of aircraft that's been built for the past 10 years, especially building my own aircraft. I rate this right there with the top of the line aircraft that you can purchase. We're now going to talk about the stock case that comes with the M300. And if you've seen our M200 and 210 video, you'll know that we are definitely not fans of the stock case that came in, which is this right here. So unfortunately, this is not too much better. They have made small changes and improvements to this case. So let's talk about what this can do and what we're going to be doing option-wise. So the first thing is you can put your H20T camera or H20 camera right here inside here, and it is form-fitted. And there's a place to put 2 batteries here, and then you can have 2 batteries on the aircraft for a total of 4 batteries. And then you have your landing gear up here, extra props, and then a space for 2 remote controllers. So that's not too bad, and we actually tried to be extremely thorough with this. We actually took this with us on our training, and because right now the better cases that we want to use are not available yet, so we were really kind of hand-tied in using this, so we had to take this with us on a plane. We took the batteries out, and then we had to ship the batteries in advance because we can only take one of these batteries on board with us, and you can't check them, obviously. You can't take them in with the aircraft itself. So, but we did ship this out, and we checked it in on a plane and went through TSA, and to our pleasant surprise, this aircraft did not get damaged, even through putting it through on an airplane. So to DJI's credit, this perforated foam and everything does protect the aircraft really good. Now what we got to talk about is all of the issues that we do have with this case. Because of the size of the aircraft, and to maintain a reasonably sized case, DJI went and made these modifications to the booms to fold them all the way in. So you have to fold the booms all the way in like Houdini to be able, and they had to basically fold this up like a pretzel to get this in this case. The problem with that is it's very awkward, and you can definitely damage the props if you're not really careful. We can see a lot of issues with that. We're going to show you in a second what we talk about as far as how you have to be able to unfold this to be able to get this in this case. So what we're going to be doing is we're working with the folks at GPC, and we talked to the engineers about this, and there are some limitations as to what they can do. Unfortunately, because of the size of the M300, they can't develop a case where the aircraft just stays with the booms completely folded out, or else the case would be very impractical. It would be too large. So what they have come up with is the best of both worlds, at least the best solution possible. So it's going to have a partial fold, that it won't allow us to have to fold this up like a pretzel, but you'll have to be, 2 of the booms will have to be folded in ever so slightly, so that, but it's going to minimize what we have to do. So what we're going to be doing for all of our customers is we're going to be going ahead and including that case with all of our kits that we sell. We do not even want to attempt to give any customer and just have this as their main case to go with. It's just going to be, I think it's the setup time is just added too much, and because the props the way they are, the props can't come off, it's going to be a lot of issues. So let me show you what I mean about how we have to disassemble and prepare this to get it back in the box. So what we have to do is we have the rear booms here. What we have to do is we have to fold these in first, and you're going to take them, making sure that the props are out of the way, and you're going to take it in ever so slightly right around that position right here. Then the front boom, you have to be sure to watching the front locking collar for the boom. And now we're going to go ahead and extend that ever so like that back in there. And again, it's again not very easy. Now I'm going to do the second side, and I'm going to take the back boom, slide it backwards carefully, making sure the props aren't getting in the way. And we're going to take this in right there. Now we're going to slide the front boom right like this back like that, and there we go. Now it can go back in the stock case. As you can see, it takes a lot of care to make sure that we're doing this right, that we don't damage the props. We know everybody's interested in flight time, so let's get right to it. Now, DJI advertises up to a maximum of 55 minutes of flight time with this aircraft, but that is with no payload. Again, that's with no payload on it. Now, with an H20T payload on it, their chart says 43 minutes of flight time. We were kind of hoping for up to close to 40 or at 40. And when we actually started doing flight time comparisons and documenting it, we actually had to do a double take. We were extremely shocked at the flight times. So the flight times on average for us with brand new batteries comes out to approximately averaging 32.5 minutes of flight time. And we were getting as low as 31 minutes and as high as 34 minutes. That's with us landing by 17% down on the ground. So we think that the DJI specs might take that until almost like you have no remaining power in the batteries at all, to where it would almost fall out of the sky and land. But we're not really sure how they come up to these flight specs. Comparatively to the Matrice 200 and 210s, using the same type of parameters, landing by 17%, we average getting 23 to 24 minute in flight time. So that you're getting approximately anywhere between 7 to 9 more minutes of flight time. And I gotta say that, keeping it real, for as expensive as these batteries are, as big and bulky and heavy as these batteries are, we were really hoping for much more than what we're getting. So that is probably the biggest disappointment out of the entire aircraft review that you're going to see from us as far as flight time, where they are, but we want to definitely make sure that we are as transparent as possible about it. So here is the battery station for the TB60 batteries. It's the only way that we can charge TB60 batteries, and it does not come stock with the aircraft. You have to buy it as an optional accessory or as a combination kit that you can buy a set of batteries, a charger, and the aircraft all together at one price. This again will allow you to plug in 8 TB60 batteries at one time and 4 of the smart controller batteries at the same time. The issue that we have with this charging station is we'll only allow you to charge up to 2 TB60 batteries at one time. And since we're not getting quite the flight time that we were hoping to get out of these batteries, that could be a problem where you may have to buy more of these batteries to constantly stay running at the same time, unless you buy 2 chargers, which is not very practical. So it's a trade-off of what you want to do. And because these batteries are a little more expensive, it can be a little bit of a dilemma. Likewise, the other issue that we have with this charging station is, unlike the DJI charging station for the TB50 batteries, this will not allow you to discharge those batteries down. So if we charge up an extra set of batteries that we don't need, there is no way for this station to discharge these batteries down to storage voltage. And that's a big disappointment as well. So also, the third thing that we don't like about it is that there is no offset for or option for a rapid charge, because it's going to on standard charging only. On standard charge, we're probably going to get about 60 minutes to charge a set of batteries. We tested it one time at 55 minutes. So there you have it. That's all the good and the bad with this battery charging station. So like the Matrice 300's predecessors, this aircraft also has Sdk compatibility. What is Sdk? That's the ability for third-party developers to develop different aftermarket platforms for this aircraft, like payload drop systems and parachutes, for example. So that still has Sdk compatibility, and most likely you're going to see a lot more Sdk third-party developers develop a lot more applications for this aircraft. So let's talk about camera sensors and payloads. The good news is that the XT, the XT2, and the Z30 cameras are all compatible with this aircraft, as is the Z15 Spotlight. Now, the bad news is that the X4, the X5S, and the X7 are not compatible with this aircraft. So that means, as of right now, unless someone develops another camera for this aircraft, this really is not going to be made for mapping applications. It's going to be more geared toward public safety and inspection work. Now, let's talk about the new camera sensors that we do have. The H20T is something that we're super excited about, and we've gotten a lot of great data during our tests. The H20T is a 4-in-1 camera that eliminates the need for most dual camera, dual gimbal setups. It has a 640 resolution thermal camera. It has a 23 times optical zoom camera with up to 200 times digital zoom. It has a RGB camera, and it also has a rangefinder. So let's talk about the thermal camera on the H20T. So we want to compare apples to apples again, compared to the XT2. So the first thing is, the XT2 comes in different focal lengths. You can get that in 13, 19, and 25 millimeters. Now, if you're going to compare the 13 millimeter H20T versus a 13 millimeter XT2, the 13 millimeter on the H20T is going to be 30% less field of view. So it's more like a 19 millimeter XT2 if you're going to compare everything relatively the same. Now, what we did was we did lots of testing with the thermal cameras in the daytime and the evening. So right now you'll see that we went out to a solar farm and we took some comparative pictures back to back with the XT2 and also the H20T. Here's a comparison between the pictures that we took at the solar farm for both cameras. So to give you the full spectrum of different types of thermal cameras I know this audience would be very interested in, we filmed and tested everything. We used the same location. We used my son as the actor going in and out of the woods and tested all these cameras. Now, the one thing I just, as a footnote, when we filmed the XT2 336 resolution camera, we filmed that later in the spring when there was not as many foliage and leaves on the trees as compared to everything else being much fuller. So take that in when you're comparing all the footage. But also on a side note, as we go through all the cost comparisons, which we'll do in a little bit, the 336 resolution camera, you'll see, is a step down from the 640s. Why am I mentioning that? Because when you're looking at trying to purchase a Matrice 200 with the 336, you're now going to basically be able to get a nice bump up in resolution with the 640 resolution cameras now for about the same cost. So for the same type of cost that you would purchase that older setup for, now you can get a newer setup with the higher resolution camera for very close in pricing. So you're going to get more value for your money and better resolution. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the footage. So now let's talk about the zoom camera capability. Let's talk about the H20 versus the Z30. Now with the Z30, that's a 2 megapixel resolution camera, and now we're at 20 megapixels with the H20T, which is significant because once we start getting into the digital zoom, we're going to get less pixelization for sure, and we noticed it right off the bat. It is definitely cleaner, it's sharper, and it's more stable as well. So we wanted to go ahead and do back-to-back testing with pictures and also video to show you. So we went ahead and did a test, side-by-side comparison, taking pictures and video. So here's the comparisons between using a cell tower as the focal point at different lengths. And here's what those pictures look like for comparison. Now, one great thing that we love about the zoom camera on the H20 is when you start getting into more zoom, when you start getting into like 23 times zoom, 40 times zoom, 80 times zoom, the further you go in, the aircraft will automatically make your controls more sensitive so that it doesn't jump around too much. And it absolutely knows how much speed that you need on both your panning and your tilting of the camera so that it makes it very nice and seamless. It's a huge improvement over the Z30 for sure. A nice addition to the H20T is a rangefinder. The rangefinder allows us to be able to know how far away point of interests are, and that's a great feature to have. So the way it works is in the middle of the screen you'll see a little crosshatch, and then when you're matching up that crosshatch to anything on the screen, it'll tell you the distance away. So we noticed that the rangefinder consistently works up to about 1,500 to 1,600 feet away. Sometimes it will recognize up to 1,700 to 1,800 feet away, even sometimes up to 2,000 feet away. But consistently, it's at least 1,500 feet away, which is a really great addition. The H20T also has a regular RGB camera. It's 20 megapixels and it's a wide angle fixed lens. So now let's talk about the remote controller for the Matrice 300. They use a new modified version of a smart controller that looks very similar to the Mavic 2. Now they are not interchangeable or compatible. So this remote controller is not compatible with Mavic, and the Mavic 2 controller is not compatible with Matrice 300. Other features and functionality that this has is, over down here, is where you can put a dongle, a USB dongle for network for the N-Trip. And this remote controller does have N-Trip capability. What I like about what they did carry over from the Sendence remote is independent tilt and pan controls, which makes it very nice for independent single camera, single person operation in case you don't have a dedicated camera operator. Now, what we did notice is because this is taking up a lot of space for that dongle down here, we think that this is losing some storage capacity for the internal battery. And thus, we're only seeing about an hour and a half of running time fully charged on the internal battery versus almost 3 hours with the Mavic 2 smart controller. Now, also they have an addition here is they allow us to be able to use a Crystal Sky monitor battery, which is nice to have, and definitely consider getting a few extra of these because we can probably get about 2.5 hours of overall run time on the internal battery and one Crystal Sky battery. Now, one thing that we weren't too crazy about is the overall brightness. So doing a comparison in the harshest sunlight in Florida side by side, we noticed by our eyes that the new smart controller isn't quite as bright. So overall, you know, there's trade-offs. I know that a lot of people complain about the weight of the Sendence remote alongside the Crystal Sky, but there's a lot of people who don't also realize that there's a very good solution out there for a Seacraft tray and monitor with a body harness that will balances that perfectly fine and takes the weight off that. And a lot of people, most people did not know about that and would complain about the weight of this. Now, with the added weight that we have here and in the front, this is definitely heavier than the Mavic 2 Smart Controller. So we're trying to compare apples to apples and keep things as real and honest as we can. And like everything else, there's trade-offs, right? There's things that we're going to like about it and things that we don't like about it. And I just hope that DJI is going to go ahead and offer a larger remote controller and a larger monitor at some point here for an aircraft like this that's going to be for these type of applications. I would hope that's going to be the case. So let's talk about RTK. DJI absolutely hit it out of the park when they decided to make one model of an aircraft, that we don't have to have different versions and different aircraft. So what we have here is the ability to use RTK when we need it. And if we don't want it or we don't need it, we don't have to use it. It's all one aircraft. So let's expand upon what I mean by here. So right here, these are RTK antennas, and they will work with either a ground station, the DRTK2 ground station, or we can simply use the N-Trip network using our smart controller here. And how that would work is we would get a hotspot where we are for a network connection, and then we could just connect to our N-Trip provider and have network N-Trip RTK functionality that way as well, where we wouldn't need the ground station. And if we don't want or need the ground station, we don't have to use it. We can simply just turn it off in the menu section. So it's very similar to what the Matrice 210 RTK V2s are for functionality with N-Trip and that ground station. Now, this does take the same base station as the Matrice 210 RTK V2s. We're going to now talk about a new cool feature called Advanced Dual Operator Mode. Advanced Dual Operator Mode is where we can bind two smart controllers to the aircraft where either pilot can take control of the aircraft. Now, only one pilot can take control at a time, but this is great for like longer distance flying where we want to remain line of sight all the way through. And that's what we did as a test. And then we picked a location where we had a second remote pilot that was approximately 5,000 feet away. And I got the aircraft up in the air and I flew out approximately to 2,400 feet away. And the second pilot then took control of the aircraft very seamlessly. And at that point I had no control of the aircraft. That second pilot did. And then he flew it straight back to him and came down and landed. As the aircraft was just landing, my remote controller disconnected from the aircraft. Now that's probably because we were lost line of sight just that far away, really low. So in the manual, DJI recommends that when you're flying point to point like this, you want to be up and maximize the transmission distances. You want to be about 400 feet high. We were about 200 feet high and had no problems. So I think that was just a line of sight issue just as it was coming down and landing. So again, this worked very seamlessly. And again, this has the ability where either pilot that does not have control of the aircraft at any one given time can be the dedicated camera operator, which is very nice to see. So that's how all this works, and it worked flawlessly. So let's talk about the new Pilot app. The new Pilot app gets a complete overhaul and has a lot of new functionality and features to it. So let's go straight into them. So one of the first things that you'll see here is a complete new graphical interface. You're going to see a lot of new functionality to it, and you're going to see where actually you're going to see wind speed and direction and distance is all new. It's not going to be in the same place. You have a whole new obstacle avoidance radar system that you're going to be able to tell where we have obstacles coming from. If it's from the front, is it from the sides, is it from the back, how far away is it? So it's really a great new interface that DJI has in here. It's very easy to use. If you're using the H20T camera, you can go ahead and go very easy from the thermal camera to the zoom camera to the RGB camera to the FPV camera very, very, very quickly. And now actually in the FPV mode, now there's a new primary flight display, the PFD, and that is outstanding. And I know a lot of people who have been calling for something like this for years, where you can see false horizons. It really adds a lot of functionality to that, and really, if you fly it this way, you can really go out and add another dimension to avoiding obstacles too. I do wish that FPV camera was a little better than 960 lines of resolution, so it could be a little clearer, so that we could get a little more definition around that. But I mean, it's a great start. So the new Pilot app has a lot of new functionality, and now there's a lot of new features here that are going to be off of these different cameras. So let's get into some of those features. The first feature is called Smart Track. Smart Track will allow us to be able to go ahead and pick a number of different type of obstacles that we can go ahead and zoom in on and focus on, and it does it all automatic. The first couple times though we tried this, we were just completely blown away by how good this is. The higher that you can get the aircraft up, the better. We tried this test many times at 300 feet, 400 feet. It worked very well. So as you can see on your screen, we were able to track a number of different type of cars, and we were able to actually track it and follow that car for about a mile away at least. And what was great about it was that it can predict when it goes like through trees and bushes or something like where its obstacles is blinding it. It knows, it kind of predicts where it's going to come out on the other side of that obstacle by distance and angles and all that kind of stuff, so it can follow it. So once Smart Track is engaged, you'll see a lot of these little yellow circles. And then from there, all you have to do is tap on any one of those circles, and then the camera is going to go ahead and focus and lock in on that target. And it just does everything manually. It does everything automatically. You don't have to do anything but to sit back and watch it. Now, one thing it doesn't do is there's no option for the aircraft to actually physically move and follow that object. We can go ahead and incorporate this feature through Flight Hub. So we can have our command center going ahead and seeing the feed, and in real time, the command center will be able to know and track where the point of interest is through the Flight Hub app, and it'll be able to see it on a map, and it's a really cool feature. We were really blown away by it. It's an incredible thing that public safety are going to be able to use. Another really cool feature for public safety is a feature called Pinpoint. Pinpoint is where we're going to be able to locate a point of interest and then drop a little pin on there, and it's going to go ahead and give you that exact location of where they are, and then we can get that information back to our command center, our ground control, so that they can go ahead and find that person or that point of interest, whatever it is that we want to try to locate. A really cool feature for inspection type of applications is called grid mode. In grid mode, it'll allow us to be able to take a series of pictures on a point of interest with just by one button. So I'll show you how this works here. We have a cell tower that we identified in Florida, and we identified that point of interest by drawing a box around it, and then we just go and hit the picture mode to take the pictures, and then it just took a series of pictures all around that through a grid pattern, and then it'll show you that the finished product at the very end. And while it's doing it, it'll show you how many pictures it's taking and the progress all the way through it. It's a very cool feature that it allows you to be able to do this type of inspection type of pictures much more automatically and safer and much more efficiently. Another great feature for inspection type of work is called AI Spot Check. AI Spot Check is a feature in Pilot under mission planning that allows us to be able to use waypoint flying, but what allows us to be able to do is record that entire flight as we wanted to. So let's say we are inspecting utility lines, and we'll go ahead and fly out to a mission. We'll fly up 175 feet, and then we'll focus in exactly on one power line or a junction point, and then take a picture, and then fly out maybe about another 200 feet, maybe go up 50 more feet in altitude, but at this time, we're gonna go ahead and take a picture straight down. So we can record this entire mission so that then we can go ahead and go back and repeat the same exact mission the same way every single time. It'll fly at exactly the same path, exactly the same latitude, longitude, and altitude, and at the same exact camera angles and focus points so that you get exact same results every single time when you need to do that over and over and over again. It's great for project progress. It's an outstanding feature that we really like to see. So lots of great functionality built into the Pilot app. So let's talk cost comparison. I know everybody is interested in how much the new Matrice 300 costs compared to the Matrice 200, and also in respect of how much more is it going to be than the Mavic 2 Enterprise. Now, we can't give you specific pricing. Please contact us directly for very specific costs, but we can tell you very specific information that's going to be very helpful. When you're looking on your screen, comparing the following equipment, apples to apples, the Matrice 300 RTK is going to be significantly less than the Matrice 210 or the Matrice 210 RTK, because you only have to buy one camera now versus two cameras with the Matrice 200 to do everything apples to apples. And when you're looking at a second remote controller for like a dedicated camera operator, you now no longer have to get a second monitor, which is a very expensive option. So you're saving a lot of money in all those different ways. And that's even taking into account that the base 300 RTK comes with no batteries and or a charging station. When you're gonna buy that either in the package combination deal or just outright individually, when you still add all of them up, it's less expensive. So there you have it, folks. That's our complete review on the Matrice 300 RTK system. We really think this takes things to the next level. It has a lot of great technology built into it. We really wanted to give you a complete, comprehensive video that's very honest, that's very real, and let you know what you can expect when you purchase this aircraft. We will completely support this aircraft with sales and training. We offer on-site training. We offer online training. And on the beginning of August, we're going to have our comprehensive online course with over 5 hours of content for this aircraft. So if you purchase this aircraft and you want to learn how to be able to maximize how to use it to its fullest intent, we're going to give you a very good comprehensive course that's coming up very soon. So if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button on our channel. Help us grow it. We want to do a lot more comprehensive videos just like you're seeing in the future. So thanks again. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. If you like this video and like to see more free videos in the future, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And while you're at it, if you're interested in free lessons on how to fly drones, discounts on drone equipment, discounts on insurance, or access to our exclusive drone video library, check out our website, steelcityflightacademy.com.